What's up, everyone? It's Isaac Smolden, the production manager here at my house. Just a quick reminder that today's episode of Redemption is part 2 with our guest, Michelle Parker. So if you didn't listen to part 1, that might provide some important context for this conversation moving forward. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Redemption Podcast with your hosts, Staci
and Julia.
Yeah. I think of Linda here when the next part we're getting ready to talk about is habits of a healthy relationship. I've heard her talk about this so much and boundaries and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So this is really great. So I'm hoping I didn't jump the gun here, but
perfect.
But I'm super excited about these. So if you don't mind, I'm going to start.
Yeah.
So the first thing is self-care. I'm such a big person about self-care. If you're not loving yourself, accepting yourself, taking care of yourself, giving yourself time, doing something that you like, then you don't have enough of you to give someone else, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm such a big person on self-care. I've learned that these past few years I've been alone, not in a relationship, but healing, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually love my alone time. I just love it. I'm learning to love myself and accept myself with all my flaws, with everything. I just think I think I'm beautiful now, which I didn't for a long time.
You are beautiful,
thank
Staci.
you.
Beautiful. And your mustard yellow jacket is like
thank you.
On point today.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, fashion
So
game.
definitely self-care, and then also setting those healthy boundaries is so important.
Oh, yeah.
Which those are the hardest two things for me.
Really?
I suck at self-care. I like to people please, say yes to everything, drive myself into the ground, not set boundaries. Like that's all the stuff that I've had a habit of and a system of doing in the past that I'm like on a daily basis have to check in with myself and what do I need right now?
Yeah. And you know what? It's okay to say no. And if you can learn this while being young, you're going to be so much happier than waiting till you're in your 50s to figure this out. So definitely take care of you, Julia. You're beautiful and you're worthy of the time of just spending time with you and set those boundaries that you just need to be with you sometimes. Mm-hmm. Take that bubble bath.
And the thing that I've learned is that the better I feel about myself, the better I feel in a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's so key.
Yeah, for sure. You know, when I first became a client of my house, I was really bad at boundaries. Like I was definitely a people pleaser, and to the point to where I'm mentally, emotionally, physically exhausted. Mm-hmm. And I started telling people no, and it would backlash on me, and I would take it so personally. And I would start having panic attacks because I felt like I was being horrible for setting those boundaries. But through this whole process of working on setting those boundaries, I can now say no, and I could give advice to people sometimes.
Which you've done for me multiple times.
Yeah, like you can tell them no.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. But I do struggle with self-care a lot, too. And I was talking to our psychologist the other week, too. And I was talking to him about, like, my house is a little messy. And I'm procrastinating and I'm not sleeping well. And I want to do these things, but I'm not doing them. And then he asked me, do you feel like you deserve these things? Because it makes me question that you feel like you're undeserving of being able to take care of yourself. Like I'm fine with boundaries, but like being able to take care of myself, having a good meal, good sleep, and a clean home. Right. Like it's definitely, sometimes I feel like I'm not deserving of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just even space to have you time.
Yeah.
Right. And not feel guilty for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially moms, or if you have kids around, it's just hard to not feel guilty and say, nope, I have to have this time.
Yeah.
I had a similar conversation with our psychologist, shout out to Richard, which was
the real MVP.
Yeah,
we love you, Richard.
Keeping everybody rolling on here at my house.
Literally.
Yeah.
No, but I was talking about recently we've we've been doing like setting some financial goals and setting some gym goals. My wife and I setting like some clean house goals, and coming to the realization that I'm someone who tries to do all that at once, which is why I'm like really good at it for 3 weeks and then I fall off for 2 months, and just slowly setting realistic goals of when I'm going to implement this piece. Okay, we're going to start meal planning everything out for the whole week. What are we eating for dinner for the whole week? And then hitting that for a little bit. And then you add that gym piece, and then you add we switch off who cleans the cat box every week piece so that my wife doesn't murder me in my sleep. And then we add this financial piece, we're going to save X amount of money in steps instead of all at once. And then also just realizing that if you lay in bed for an extra hour on a Friday instead of getting up and being super productive and cleaning the entire downstairs of the house, that's not always the worst thing in the world. It's not always a bad thing. You're allowed to play video games for an hour, or sleep in for an extra hour instead of trying to have the most productive day you could possibly have every day, as long as you're hitting the goals for yourself that you need to be hitting, and as long as you're doing what you need to do at work and in your relationship, it's okay to take that hour and just sleep in for an extra hour.
Yeah.
And not clean the whole downstairs.
You deserve it, Isaac.
I do.
I am very similar. I just started reading Atomic Habits.
I have the book. I love that book. I did a report on that book. I love that book. I even have a saying on my wall in my house from a quote from that book.
Do you remember it?
Oh, I knew you was going to ask me. I can see it, and it's white and blue. It was really a great quote.
Yeah, and it's just all about how like your little daily habits, and your, especially for myself, like I've got these bad habits that I'm the desire to break them is so strong, and I feel like I'm hitting a breakthrough on some things. But if you like course correct, a bad habit just by 1%, one thing at a time, like the whole trajectory of your life will change dramatically just by that 1%. Like if I get up 1 hour earlier to work on some design classes in the morning, I'm going to get a lot farther in my career if I just maintain that habit of doing it rather than expecting that I'm going to fix everything about me all at once, because that's the kind of person I am too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like being realistic too. Like I didn't wake up in time to go to the gym before work this morning. So you know what? I'm going after work.
It looks like you did though. Like you're dressed for it.
We're recording this on Halloween. I'm wearing my average Joe's dodgeball classroom today. I might leave the arm warmers and the neck warmer on for the gym.
You're going to be on that cycle machine.
Oh yeah. 100%. 100%.
All right, moving on. Opening up. So the next one is opening up and communicating with your partner. And this can be especially being open and honest from the beginning is always recommended. Because that you start to create a safe space and a vulnerable space with your partner, and you can feel heard. You can feel like you can be completely honest, which is what we all really need.
Right.
And just seek to understand, and in opening up with your partner, and they're like, I don't understand this, or I don't understand that, or I see where you were coming from that, I see where you were going with that, and I'm not mad, I'm not this or whatever. All you're doing is seeking to understand. You learn things about yourself together.
I think about opening up too is like when you don't open up, you still you hold those resentments, and that puts a weight on you. And then your partner doesn't know why this is happening.
And then you're yelling at them about the cat box.
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty much like you know what? It didn't come to the yelling conversation, because it came to my wife having a very open and honest conversation with me of, if you don't clean the cat box this week, we're going to have a real problem next week. And I said, okay. And then I cleaned the cat box on Thursday, and we put it on the schedule because she expressed that she was harboring a little bit of resentment that she's the only one that cleans the cat box. And so communicated, made the change.
Awesome.
Another week without a knife buried in my chest when I wake up.
Yeah. Or cat poop in the bed.
Yeah, or cat poop in the bed.
Yeah. All right, the next one is relationships take effort.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing, like if you want that relationship to last and you want to be in that relationship, you're going to have to be in it, both feet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing too, because like being an alcoholic, alcoholics want instant gratification. We want it right now, right away, no matter the consequences. Like, I just want that instant gratification. But
I think that's all people.
well, yeah, probably too. But that is something that I had to take a step back when I was in that separation with my partner, is that we need to take it slow and take that time and effort to actually put into the relationship. Yeah.
Good.
The next one says, show affection, closeness, and trust and intimacy.
I think that's the best part.
Gross.
Well, girls, that's the fun part for us. We love holding hands and cuddling and, rubbing his little hair off his face, or, just being, touchy-feely. That's us, I love that part. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's not your favorite part, Isaac?
That is one I struggle with in public. Yeah, not a fan. I don't know. I've always had that avoidance of public displays of affection. So
it doesn't have to be public.
Yeah.
Well, no, not at all.
And that's something that, you should communicate with your partner. But, you have to you shouldn't act like you hate your partner in public either, right? I mean,
because that's going to cause problems at home.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think also what this means too is the closeness, trust, and intimacy is not only a physical thing, but it's an emotional thing. So we're talking about like to understand, hearing to understand, is building that closeness and trusting your partner, and then building that intimacy where you can express your emotions healthy.
I'm going to skip down one because it says emotional bonding is laughing, deep life talks. I just love the deep life talks. That is just like the closest you can get to a person, right? Like intellectually.
Yeah.
Like I love that part.
That's my favorite.
That is my favorite too.
Yeah.
I talk to my partner every day, and we have such deep talks about anything. Like, it's so crazy, the conversations we have.
Anything from sloth toes to I don't know who I'm going to be when I grow up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the one I skipped was communication, of course. Cultivate a space to speak about problems in your relationship, which is super important. Kind of what Isaac was talking about the cat box.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like for me, that's in the car, or when we're at home,
Yeah.
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 and it's just the two of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing, because you don't want to like disclose your information out in public, like you did this and blah blah blah.
Like some TikTok people
Yeah.
who like to share their arguments online.
Right. Why?
I don't know.
And if you don't mind, I'll do the next one because I really like this one.
Yeah.
Making up after arguments, making amends, willing to admit when you are wrong, as well as forgive the other person. I just always love when I'm in a argument or a disagreement, but I love the makeup time later. Like, I'm sorry. It just feels good when you get rid of the strife and the anger inside, and you're both are like, making amends, and it just feels good, right?
Yeah.
You can grow closer together.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah.
I actually was I was a little disappointed earlier with my partner. We were supposed to have date night tonight to watch the last Harry Potter, and it was ironic that we were landing on Halloween, but he got called for a job, and so he had to cancel. And so I was like I'm happy for him.
Right.
I'm so happy for him, but I was like, I'm sorry, I'm upset. I need to hang up. And we came back to it, after I cooled down, we came back to it, and I was like, I'm not upset at you. I'm upset about that. I had my hopes up,
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry that I had to take that moment. So that's I personally feel like making amends as soon as possible is a huge thing.
Yes.
But you need that space too. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm someone who I think early in my wife's and I relationship when we first started dating, if we got into an argument, and we did long distance for 3 years too, and I felt like that creates arguments over the stupidest possible stuff, because mostly you're just frustrated that you don't get to see each other, right? And you're having to text, and there's miscommunications, and it's super lame.
That's hard.
And so you just, little stuff every once in a while turns into an argument. But I'm someone that I want to resolve the argument as soon as possible. I'm like, nope, you got to call me. Let's just figure it out. And then that way the argument will be done and we can move on and everyone will be happy, right? And my wife is very much the opposite. Like, she wants to self-reflect and remove herself from the argument and then come back to it, which is something that I struggled with it a lot. And so we spent a lot of time early on in our relationship trying to find where that happy medium middle place was, right? Because realistically, I needed to take a step back as well and do a little self-reflection on, like, okay, am I asking too much here? Am I not paying attention to what her needs are or what she's trying to communicate? And so you can take that second and then come back to it as soon as possible when you've both had a chance to cool down a little bit and then resolve it. I mean, that's another trope, right? Is never go to bed angry. Never go to bed angry.
I think that's a great example for coming together to compromise. Mm-hmm. Such a great example.
And so, Isaac, I think you should read the last two here.
The last two. What do we got?
Oh, we have
a couple
I know,
more,
but
don't
the
we?
last
The last
two.
two. Okay, I got the last two. Oh, I'm already reading the last two. I understand why Stacy's asking me to read this. Stacy's trying to call me out.
I wrote
Stacy's
cat
trying to
box next to it.
call me out.
All right. Go ahead, Michelle. Go with the next one.
Express appreciation and respect for each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that one's a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
We all like to feel validated.
Yeah, exactly.
And loved.
Yes.
And like we're enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and also respect is a huge thing. Like, I never want to, like, disrespect, and so, like, I expect the same thing. I don't want to be disrespected, and so I think that's a huge one in a real relationship. You see a future with that person. Do you both want the same things? Faith that you'll be together and there for each other through thick and thin.
Sometimes it's okay to not, by the way. I mean, I have a close friend who was in a 4-year-long relationship all through college. And towards the end of college, they both kind of realized, like, we both don't really want to live in the same place or do the same stuff. Or, I want to live rural, you want to live in a city. And, this just doesn't really make sense for what we want out of our futures. Like, we're kind of too opposite to compromise. But, I mean, they dated for 4 years. Better to come to that realization sooner rather than later.
And again, change is okay. Like, if that relationship changes, that's totally okay. This is what we are all about, growing and loving and learning ourselves more and more, and to be okay with change, maybe.
Yeah. That's a really good point, because we're all constantly changing.
Yeah.
I know for myself that if I didn't see a future with my current partner, like, we don't have the same mission, vision, values for our lives and what we want, then I wouldn't be with him.
Right.
It would be,
kind of like a waste of time, really. Like, if you don't have the same vision, the same.
Yeah, if you want that like long-term committed relationship. And maybe that's not your ideal right now. Maybe you want something else. Maybe you want something more casual, and that's perfectly okay too.
Right.
So it's just about communication, and, like, as soon as you change and want something different, you got to let that person know.
Yep. Communicate.
Yeah.
All right, it's my no, it's
Isaac.
Balancing chores and housework with each other. Don't cause resentment.
Change that cat box.
This is something that we definitely have had lots of conversations about once we were married and we were living together, and also kind of figuring out work schedules too, right? Because I work here, she has her 9 to 5, but then I do a lot of, like, part-time work too. Like, I'm reffing hockey games, I'm calling the Wolverines games, and so during the hockey season I am out of the house a lot. Like, I'm doing a lot of work. I'm not as home not at home as much. And so she expressed that because I'm not as home as much, she's expressed that she's willing to do a lot more of the housework than I do, which is great, because sometimes it is a lot for me to come home after, working here, and then I go ref a game. I'm getting home at like 8:30, and I just want to sit down and like have the last hour of the day, and the dishes are already done and the floor is already vacuumed, and that's great. Yeah. But she also hates doing laundry. So guess who does the laundry every Friday and Saturday? That's me. And guess who doesn't want to do the cat box all the time? My wife. So now we're splitting doing the cat box. And and that goes back to communication too. I mean, because to me, I always imagine like 50-50 in the house. Like it doesn't really matter. But she was able to communicate like, she's totally willing to do a little bit more, and she would prefer to do that rather than me have to come home and spend my whole time at home working. But then I'm also constantly checking in, where if I come home and flop down on the couch and there's a sink full of dishes, you got to at the very least get up and offer to do the dishes, right? I can't just take that for granted, because maybe she had a crazy hard day at work and she just needs that time more than I do today.
And if I can say, that offer is golden. Like it's, even if like, no, I'm going to do them, but if my partner would offer to do them, I'm like, oh.
Then she has to call my bluff.
You're just hoping for like, no, it's okay, I got it, baby.
I'm always hoping for that answer. I'm always hoping for that answer. And that kind of ties into the last one, right? Give yourself time for personal space and boundaries to avoid feelings of resentment and frustration.
Yeah. Well, this was so awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed this little, banter back and forth and sharing different experiences and how we could relate to all of the different behaviors and things that can either help or hinder your relationship, and learning about the different attachment styles we have as human beings with our relationships, not only to our partners, but to anyone, to our parents, to our friends, to our boss. It's good to be educated. The more that we educate ourselves, the better. And if you really have a desire to grow and have, good relationships with other people, then, you just have to become willing to do something different and put a little work in. Yeah. So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for coming today.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
For being here.
And Isaac, you're going to put the attachments to those quizzes
we'll
online
put some
and the
quiz
videos
in there.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah. And for the final question, I just want to ask Michelle really quick, is what does the word redemption mean to you?
I feel like a redemption means that no matter how many times that you could get knocked down, you could always get back up. And that's something that's always resonated with me. Like Linda, as long as I've known her, she's always told me that I'm resilient. And I think resilient and redemption are two words.
Hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah. And because there were so many times that I've been knocked down, but I still got back up, even though I knew there was another punch coming. So.
I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you for being here and sharing. This was a really great podcast today.
Yeah, it was a really good podcast. I enjoy being here.
We'll have you on again soon.
Yay.
Yeah. Michelle's got more tricks up her sleeve.
Oh, yeah.
Some knowledge to bestow upon.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of masculinity and femininity.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll talk about it.
Okay. Sounds
great. We'll have Jay on that episode. Jay's Gen X personality just jumped into redemption. Oh, that'll be a good dichotomy.
Okay. That'll be next. That'll be great. Okay, well, if you or someone you know are a victim of sex trafficking, please call 1-866-733-7878 or text HELP to 233-733. For local services here at my house, you can call 373-HELP. That's 373-HELP. Remember, if you see something, say something. This is Redemption, loved and thriving. Until next time.